to do for you guys, solving a problem that she's found on Education Perfect. So if we have a look at this, it's looking for values of D for real solutions. So when we're looking at solutions or real solutions, I know that I'm talking about my discriminant. When I'm talking about real solutions, I could have one or two real solutions. Remember that if it's equal to 0, you get one real solution, and if it's greater than 0, you get two real solutions. So this could give you one or two real solutions. So that's where I disagree with what they've done on Education Perfect. So at the moment, we're looking at our quadratic, and it's a bit messy. The reason it's messy is not because there's lots of going on it, but that we've got an x squared inside a bracket that needs expanding out. So we're going to do that first. So that gives me x squared plus or minus 2x minus 1 minus dx squared minus d equals 0. Now I'm going to bring my x squareds together, because remember the general form is y equals ax squared plus bx, oops, that was a funky x, sorry girls, bx plus c. And I want it in this form with my a, my b, my c, so that I can put it into my lovely discriminant here. Okay, so let's start collecting our like terms. So I've got x squared minus dx squared plus or minus 2x minus 1 minus d equals 0. Now I can take my lovely x squared out as a common factor. I'm going to put the bracket in front just to make it so that it's nice in this form that we recognise. X squared times 1 gives me 1x squared. X squared times minus d gives me minus d x squared. And we've got plus or minus 2x minus 1 minus d equals 0. So now I can start working it forward. So let's think. We've got a is whatever x squared is multiplied by. Here we go. So a equals 1 minus d. Remember, if you've got an expression, put a bracket around it because there's a lot going on there. And then we've got our b. Here's our b. b here is plus or minus 2. So we write b equals plus or minus 2. Again, it's an expression because I've got a plus or minus. I'm going to stick it in a bracket. And then for c, I need another highlighter. Let's choose green. Here's my c. So it's everything that doesn't have an x. So here, c equals minus 1 minus d. And again, I'm going to stick it in brackets. So now it's a part of substituting it back into this lovely discriminant form that we have up here. Okay, so let's substitute in. So I've got, red pen. I've got plus or minus 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1 minus d, times c, which is minus 1 minus d. It's got to be greater than or equal to 0. Now, any number, whether it's positive or negative squared, gives you a positive answer. So here, 2 squared is 4. Then I'm going to keep the 4 and I'm going to expand out my quadratic. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 1 times negative d is negative d. Negative d times negative 1 is positive d, and they cancel themselves out. Negative d times negative d is positive d squared, and is greater than or equal to 0. Now I can expand out this bracket that I've got here, remembering to multiply by negative 4. Be very careful with that. So I've got 4, negative times a negative is a positive, so plus 4. Negative 4 times positive d squared gives me negative 4d squared, greater than or equal to 0. I've got 4 plus 4, which is 8, minus 4d squared is greater than or equal to 0. I subtract 8 from both sides, giving me minus 4d squared is greater than or equal to negative 8. Now, be very careful because I've got to divide by a negative 4. And when I do that, my inequality changes. So I'm going to write it on the next line. So I change direction on my inequality. Got d squared, it equals negative 8 divided by negative 4. That means that d squared is less than or equal to 2. Opposite of square is square root, so d is less than or equal to the square root of 2. Remember, that could have a positive or negative answer. Thinking back to here, where we've got it all shown out, a negative or a positive when we're squaring out. So opposite square root can give us a negative or positive answer. Now let's think about what this might look as a graph. Now here we're talking about D, and we're talking about its result. So I'll just write the word result here. Oh, that was badly spelled. I look at my original equation, and I can see in my original equation, here it is, that x squared is positive. So when I sketch this, I'm going to sketch a positive quadratic. I have two solutions here. One is a minus 2 square root of 2, and the other is a positive square root of 2. But I'm looking for it where the answer results is that it's for negative. Here, my result happens to be negative. Have I put that the right way around? I'm not sure. No, this should be D. Apologies. I want a number that when it goes in, the resulting answer is less than the answer that I have there. So when I do that, this here up here is all positive, so it's greater than 0. This all down here is negative, so it's less than 0. So here, therefore, I have real solutions. When it is between negative 2 and positive 2. And I remember my negative equal. Okay, because at that stage, remember, there's one real solution. Okay, hopefully this helps. Please get back to me if you don't understand.